Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 25th, and right now we are looking at the infrared/visible satellite imagery. You can see British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. Check out our frontal system draped across Vancouver Island. Lots of cold air behind that, still to come for much of the region. Strong winds across the higher terrain, big westerly surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and we're going to have some interesting weather through next week as well, as we spill a lot of cold air out over the Gulf of Alaska and continue to move powerful fronts and systems into the region. We'll go over those details here in a moment. Taking a look at the winter storm warning. You got winter weather advisories down through the Oregon coastal range as well. We got sneaker wave advisories that I would consider in effect all the way up the Washington coast and for Vancouver Island and for western BC way north. Don't turn your back on the ocean. And you can see Portland kind of calling attention to that again today as well. Watch out. Those waves have huge waterlogged logs out there that weigh hundreds of pounds. Don't turn your back on the ocean. You can see that sneaker wave risk all the way down the coastline. And we got the winter weather advisory here for the coastal range of Oregon. Winter storm warnings for the interior and the Cascades, wind advisories and high wind watches and warnings all over the place as you go further east as well. And you can see this is for above 1,000 feet. Again, the winter weather advisory for the coastal range in Oregon. Snow expected 2 to 6 inches, except 8 to 10 above 1,500 feet. Gusty winds out there. This goes from 7 p.m. tonight to 1 a.m. Tuesday here. So if you're traveling back and forth, heads up for that on the back roads across Oregon here. Well, it's going to get pretty crazy here as you go through tonight on in through early Tuesday morning. Now, the winter storm warning extends all the way down through southern Oregon as well. Wanted to point that out. You can see some big amounts for Crater Lake. Watch out for Siskiyou Summit. You have some accumulating snowfall there as well on I-5. So, be prepared for that. Now, taking a look at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, you can see our polar lobe as it's marching its way down across British Columbia, pushing through Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. Strong low pressure system, strong pressure gradient, and this very cold air is going to spill out over the Gulf of Alaska and continue to power a strong frontal system as we go through Tuesday night into Wednesday. And we're going to have additional systems rounding this and throwing little impulses here back into the region here. There's still some wind potential with this as well. And this cold air is going to make its way all the way down the west coast. And I'll show you what I mean on that here in a moment. But first, let's look at the mean sea level pressure map. You can see the pressure falls there with that Arctic high trying to make its way down and sagging that Arctic air into British Columbia. Look at that 983 millibar low right across Alberta, BC border there. Strong pressure gradient, like I mentioned, and this is really going to just absolutely have the snow machine going 100% here. This very cold air spilling, picking up that moisture and slamming it back into our mountain ranges here. That one slides off. Arctic high slides south. We start to get a bit chilly here across some of the region. Even places west could get below freezing on Tuesday morning. We'll look at those details here in a moment. And then you can see the active weather just absolutely continue here as we go through next week. Powerful frontal system draped across BC, Washington, and Oregon. Another big round of mountain snow, some gusty winds out there, some big waves. You name it, we got it. So taking a look at the winds at 10,000 feet, I just want to show you this because it kind of shows you the power of the system. Look at this. By the time we go into this afternoon, look at these winds just across the higher terrain of Idaho and Montana. If you are off in the backcountry and exposed areas, be very careful out there. Very strong winds are incoming. And of course, we're going to get the big westerly surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca associated with some big wave activity and kind of correlating with high tide this afternoon. So you might want to watch out if you're out in Whidbey Island. And you can see that cold front finally swing through the area. And then you can see the next cold front as we go through Tuesday into Wednesday here off the coastline. That one's going to be a mean one as well. And we'll be breaking down those details over the next few days. Now, looking at 5,000 feet, 850 millibars. This is the temperature anomaly. So there is our initial system here, bringing that cold air. You can see the Arctic air sagging down south across British Columbia here. This engulfs the region. And then we start to look off into the future. As you can see, it gets really cold across Alaska and some of the Yukon here, Northwest Territories. And this air is just absolutely spilling out over the Pacific Ocean. Look at that impressive blast of cold air. This is going to pick up a lot of moisture, and this has huge snowfall potential across the higher terrain here. This is just absolutely crazy, the amount of cold air that spills out over the Gulf of Alaska and the Pacific Ocean and runs right back into our mountain ranges. So we'll be watching this one closely. I can't wait to see how this evolves over the next day or two. And looking at 10,000 feet, again, Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon there. Put that into motion. There's our frontal system that we're going through today. And then we get a little bit of a warm up right in front of that next frontal system here as we go through Tuesday night and Wednesday. And then this absolutely frigid air is just pouring out over the Gulf of Alaska and the Pacific Ocean here. Big mountain snows, another virtual guarantee as we go through next week. So this is what's going on here. You can see the cold air over relatively warm ocean. Pacific Ocean is not that warm out there, but the air aloft is so dang cold here that it's still going to be a pretty good difference, and the lapse rate will be strong. strong. So you're going to have warmer, moist air rising into cold air, condenses into clouds. And of course, you lift it even further when you slam it back into the terrain there. And just an absolutely perfect snowmaking machine will be in effect. This goes from BC, Washington, Oregon, all the way down through California here through the upcoming week. Now, looking at 6 hour minimum 2 meter temperature. So let's put this into motion here. And I want to show you. You can see the frontal system drop down. The temperatures really drop off as we go on into tomorrow morning. But watch this as we go into Monday night. Check it out. We start to get some flirting here with some of these freezing temperatures. So whatever falls may actually freeze up for a time as we go through Tuesday morning. So we really got to be careful, even down through the Willamette Valley here, for some black ice forming. Same thing with eastern Washington, Oregon. And look at some of these chilly temperatures across the higher terrain there. It should be fairly short-lived. By the time we go into Tuesday afternoon, we should be done with those freezing temperatures for much of the region before the next system starts to roll in here. Now, let's look at the North American model. This is the frontal system driving down across the area. Notice how we're kind of rain shadowed here across the central Puget Sound. That wind, westerly wind, northwesterly wind running into the Olympic Mountains. You get a little bit of that rain shadow here across the central Sound, but we're going to get some convergence of activity here as we go through tonight. A bit of it, you can kind of see it through the Cascades here. And you can see that frontal system draped down across the Oregon coastline here, across the Willamette Valley, bringing big mountain snows across the Cascades. And you see the convergence zone activity continuing for some areas on and through tomorrow. Then we're going to pick it back up again here as we go through Monday afternoon. Check it out. You can see the central Sound maybe getting targeted a bit there as well. And look it up north across Snohomish and Skagit, maybe just the very southern portions of Whatcom County there as well. As you can see, you could get some snowfall accumulating here across some areas Everett northward if the North American model is right. And that's when temperatures are really going to be cooling off there as well. So we got to watch for that. It doesn't take much. You get a half an inch or an inch of snowfall sticking on the roadway and falling from the sky, and it can be quite intimidating. Now looking at the total snow ratio and Kuchera ratio, of course, big mountains here, big snow across the mountains, I should say. And then you can kind of see that convergent activity there as we go on in through Monday night. So I just wanted to highlight that. Some of that may be falling as small hail or snow pellets. There could be a lightning strike or two associated with that as well. And you can see some decent amounts across some of the coastal ranges. And of course, the Cascades are going to do quite nice out of this system here and then on through next week as well. Accumulated 10 meter max wind gusts. Let's put this into motion. You can see it's already been gusting 36 at my house in the central Sound. As we go through this afternoon, check out the westerly surge come rolling down the Strait of Juan de Fuca and hit Whidbey Island there. Some of them all showing some of these gusty winds getting towards Everett here and some of the coastline of the Puget Sound here also, but you see the big winds across the higher terrain. Not a major windstorm otherwise. This is mainly for the higher terrain of the Cascades here and across eastern Washington. Stronger winds there as well. But as we go on in towards Wednesday, that next frontal system probably going to be a little bit breezier here for places like Seattle, Portland, and for the coastal areas as well, as that strong frontal system drapes down across the area. Now, I want to show you this here real quick as well. I've been showing this daily. So as we go through the day Monday, you see that lightning potential start to kick up here as we go noon, 1, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., then it finally starts to die. Just keep showing up there a little bit. But yeah, we do have a lightning strike chance here or two, and that could be associated with some snow pellets or maybe some snow out there and some small hail as well, which can coat the roadway and make things slick, at least for a time. So heads up for that. Now, looking at the European, as you can imagine, we're going to have some wave activity up and down the coastline. And if you look really closely there across the Strait of Juan de Fuca, you can kind of see those waves really kick up between 2 and 4. And the high tide is right about 4 o'clock there for Whidbey Island. So it could get kind of wild there on the island. But you see the big waves up and down the coastline for the next few days. Another strong frontal system is going to keep that wave action going on the coastal areas here as we go on in through next week as well. I mean, look at that. Just kind of continuing to churn out there. It is still winter here across the Pacific Northwest after all. But on that note, March 1st, technically you go to meteorological spring. So something interesting there as well. Google that if you want to know more. Taking a look at Whistler, you can see the big mountain snows incoming here with the potential for more even as we go on in through later next week. Mount Baker, big snowfall as it continues to show. A really good model agreement there. Probably looking at least over a foot, and then big amounts also potentially next week. Same thing for Stevens Pass as well. And this is the gusty winds for Stevens Pass. In the exposed areas, you could be gusting up over 40, 45 miles per hour, and then that blustery conditions with that strong frontal system here as we move through next week. Now, Snoqualmie Pass also, look at this, up over a foot. And again, additional rounds possible coming. And then Mount Hood, same thing there as well. Crater Lake, similar. Now, looking at Seattle-Tacoma, it's already been gusting 36, like I said, and I'm pretty close to SeaTac here. So that should, you might get a gust 35 to 40 miles per hour. But the next system does look a bit breezier. You can see the control run clocking in here at 40 miles per hour and some higher gusts there. So it could cause some nuisance power outages along the Washington, Oregon coast, down towards Portland as well. So Southwest BC would be included in that also. So if we look at Spokane, this is the initial frontal system here as well, and then the gusty winds with that next powerful storm. 6 to 10 days, as I showed you guys, you saw that cold air just really blasting back into the west coast here. So below average signal here across much of the west, 8 to 14 days, something similar there all the way through March 9th. And this is really going to help our snowpack because you can see a lot of Washington is quite a ways below average, some places down towards 50%, 60%. But this is really going to help out, especially as we go through next week as well. Hopefully we can overperform and just dump some huge amounts across much of the region. BC is really hurting for the snowfall also, and the North American Drought Monitor. I've been showing this the last few days. We need some precipitation across Canada here because we don't need another fire season like they got last year. We kind of dodged the bullet here across a lot of western Washington and Oregon, where the smoke the wind trajectory didn't bring that back out over us, but that may not be the case that's upcoming next summer. So hopefully we can improve on some of those drought conditions there. But anyway, yeah, pretty impressive frontal system. Now, I may live stream today, so hopefully you can join me along for that. We'll see how it goes. I might head up towards Whidbey Island there and check out some of that wave action and see what happens out there. So we can catch some nice weather. But anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. There is a chance I may do another video here tonight. I'll check out the models once I get back from my little chase. And if not, then I will talk to you guys again tomorrow, and we'll break everything down again. And we'll take a look on in through next week. Some very active weather will be continuing to roll into the area. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.